I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. Our joint savings account showed $847. Last week, it held $43,000. My hands shook as I refreshed the page 3 times, hoping the bank made some terrible mistake. But the balance stayed the same, and my stomach dropped like I'd swallowed stones. I called the bank immediately, my voice cracking as I asked about the recent transactions. The representative hesitated before explaining that my husband, Marcus, had made several large withdrawals over the past 10 days. Emergency purchases, he'd called them. My mind raced through possibilities: medical bills, car repairs, family crisis. But Marcus hadn't mentioned anything. When he walked through the door that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open. He smiled casually, kissing my forehead like everything was normal. I asked him about the withdrawals, keeping my voice steady. He barely blinked before lying straight to my face. "Oh, that? My brother needed help with his business. Emergency loan. I'll explain everything later." But his eyes shifted away too quickly, and I knew something was deeply wrong. The next morning, while Marcus showered, I grabbed his phone from the nightstand. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. His passcode was still our anniversary date, which felt like a cruel joke now. I opened his messages and immediately wished I hadn't. Conversations with 3 different women filled his screen. Photos, flirty texts, plans to meet at expensive restaurants. One message read, "Thanks for the bracelet, baby. You're so generous." Another, "Can't wait to see you at the hotel tonight." My vision tunneled. I scrolled further and found receipts: designer handbags worth thousands, hotel suites, jewelry I'd never seen. He was spending our savings, our future, on women whose names I didn't even recognize. The shower shut off. I quickly photographed everything I could, my fingers trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Then I placed it back exactly where I'd found it. Marcus emerged, humming cheerfully, completely unaware that I'd just discovered his entire second life. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time Marcus touched me or spoke to me, my skin crawled. But I stayed quiet. Something inside me shifted from shock to cold calculation. If I confronted him now, he'd deny everything, delete evidence, maybe even drain whatever money remained. I needed to be smarter than my emotions. So I watched him. I noticed patterns I'd somehow missed before. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, he claimed late meetings. Friday afternoons, sudden errands. I checked our bank statements going back 6 months and found a trail of expensive dinners, luxury purchases, hotel charges, all while he'd been telling me we needed to cut back on groceries. One receipt caught my attention, a necklace from Tiffany's purchased 2 months ago. I'd never received any necklace. I wondered which of his girlfriends wore it now. That night, I started a folder on my laptop labeled Tax Documents. Inside, I began organizing every piece of evidence I could find. Saturday morning, I made breakfast and asked Marcus casually about our finances. "Should we review our budget together? I feel like money's been tight lately." His face tightened for just a second before he recovered. "Everything's fine. You worry too much." When I pressed about the missing savings, his tone changed. "Why are you questioning me? Do you think I'm irresponsible with money? Maybe if you contributed more instead of working part-time, we wouldn't be stressed." The words hit like a slap. I worked part-time because he'd convinced me to focus on starting a family. Now he was using it against me. He stood up, pushing his chair back roughly. "I handle the finances. That's how it's always been. Trust me, okay?" But I didn't trust him. Not anymore. That afternoon, while he was out, I found a second credit card hidden in his gym bag. The statement showed $18,000 in charges, mostly at high-end restaurants and boutiques. My chest tightened. This was worse than I'd imagined. My best friend, Claudia, noticed something was wrong when I canceled lunch for the 3rd time. She showed up at my door unannounced, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a tight hug. I broke down and told her everything. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. When I finished, she squeezed my hand. "You need a lawyer. Right now. Before he hides more assets." I hadn't thought that far ahead. Claudia worked in finance and understood things I didn't. She explained how Marcus could move money, open secret accounts, even claim debts to avoid paying me anything in a divorce. "Document everything," she said firmly. "Bank statements, texts, receipts. And check if he has accounts you don't know about." That last part made my stomach turn. She gave me the name of a sharp attorney who specialized in financial abuse cases. Then she said something that changed everything: "There's a property deed search online. Check if he's bought anything without telling you." I set a trap. At dinner, I mentioned wanting to plan a vacation and asked Marcus for our account passwords to book flights. He froze mid-bite. "I'll handle it. Just tell me where you want to go." I smiled sweetly. "I'd like to compare prices myself." "You're always so busy." His jaw tightened. "The passwords are complicated. I'll text them to you later." He never did. Instead, that night, I noticed him on his laptop at 2 a.m., screen angled away from me. I pretended to sleep while watching him through barely opened eyes. He was moving money. I could see his fingers flying across the keyboard, clicking rapidly between screens. The next morning, I checked our statements again. Another $5,000 gone, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. My heart raced, but I stayed calm. I needed him to think I suspected nothing. At breakfast, I chatted about mundane things while he avoided eye contact, nervousness radiating from him like heat. He knew I was watching now, but he didn't know what I'd already discovered. I stopped sleeping well. Every night, I lay awake replaying memories, searching for signs I'd missed. How long had this been happening? Were there others before these three women? The betrayal burrowed deeper than the money. He'd looked me in the eyes every single day and lied. I lost weight. My co-workers asked if I was sick. I smiled and blamed stress, which wasn't entirely false. But beneath the sadness, something harder was forming. Anger, cold and sharp. I used that anger to keep digging. One afternoon, while Marcus was at the gym, I searched his office. Behind a stack of old tax returns, I found a bank statement for an account I'd never heard of. It showed a balance of $67,000. Money he'd hidden from me. Money that was legally half mine. I photographed everything with shaking hands, then carefully returned each paper to its exact position. That night, I booked an appointment with the lawyer Claudia recommended. The first available slot was 3 days away. I marked it in my calendar under dentist appointment. Marcus started acting like a stranger. He accused me of being cold and distant, of not caring about our marriage anymore. The irony would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. He complained to his family that I was going through something and being difficult. His mother called, gently suggesting I see a therapist. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. He was rewriting our story, painting me as unstable before I could expose him. I realized this was deliberate. If he made everyone believe I was irrational, my accusations would seem like paranoid delusions. But I had proof. Screenshots, bank records, photographs of receipts. 2 nights later, I recorded a conversation. I asked him directly about the missing money, keeping my voice calm and reasonable. He exploded, yelling about trust and respect, calling me controlling and paranoid. "You're imagining things," he shouted. "Maybe you need help." I let the recording run until he stormed out. Then I saved it in 3 separate locations, including a cloud drive he didn't know existed. The lawyer's office was downtown, tucked between a coffee shop and a dry cleaner. I arrived 15 minutes early, palms sweating. Attorney Victoria Cross was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I handed her the folder I'd been building, and she spent 20 minutes reviewing everything in silence. Finally, she looked up. "This is financial abuse. And with this evidence, we can not only recover your money but also ensure he faces consequences." She explained how we could freeze accounts, file emergency motions, and protect my assets before Marcus caught on. "There's a legal strategy we can use," she said, leaning forward. "If we act fast and file first, we control the narrative. He won't see it coming until it's too late." For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt powerful. Victoria gave me a list of additional documents to gather, and we scheduled another meeting for the following week. As I left, she called after me, "Stay calm around him. Don't let him know you're preparing anything." I made my first move quietly. Using Victoria's advice, I opened a new bank account at a different institution and transferred my last paycheck into it. Marcus didn't notice because he barely paid attention to my small income anymore. Next, I changed the passwords on every personal account I had: email, social media, cloud storage. Then I secured copies of our financial records, property deeds, and tax returns. Victoria had warned me that Marcus might try to hide or destroy evidence once he realized I was serious. So I moved faster. I called the bank and placed a hold on any new withdrawals from our joint account without both signatures. The representative hesitated but agreed after I explained the situation. That afternoon, Marcus tried to withdraw cash and was denied. He called me immediately, voice tight with barely controlled anger. "What did you do?" I played innocent. "What do you mean?" He hung up without answering. When he came home, his face was pale, eyes darting. He knew something had shifted, but he didn't know how much. The argument that followed was explosive. Marcus slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. "You went behind my back to the bank? Are you trying to control me?" I stood my ground, arms crossed, voice steady. "I'm protecting what's left of our savings. You've been lying to me." His face flushed red. "Lying? About what exactly?" I could have shown him everything right then, but Victoria's voice echoed in my mind, "Let him reveal himself." "About where our money went," I said simply. He laughed, bitter and sharp. "You think you're so smart. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I've been supporting women who actually appreciate me. Women who don't nag or question everything I do. Maybe if you were different, I wouldn't have needed them." The confession hit harder than any accusation I could have made. He just admitted everything, and I had my phone recording in my pocket. His face shifted as he realized what he'd said, but the words couldn't be taken back. 2 days later, I discovered someone had been giving Marcus information about my movements. My sister-in-law, Tanya, Marcus's younger sibling, had been tracking my appointments and reporting back to him. I found out when Marcus confronted me about sneaking around to lawyers. My stomach dropped. I'd been so careful, but Tanya worked at a building adjacent to Victoria's office and had spotted me. She'd always been loyal to her brother, but I didn't expect her to actively sabotage me. I called Victoria immediately. "We need to move faster. He knows I'm planning something." She didn't hesitate. "We will file tomorrow. I'll prepare emergency motions tonight." That evening, I packed a bag and told Marcus I was staying at Claudia's for a few days. "We both need space," I said calmly. He didn't argue, probably relieved to have freedom. As I drove away, I saw Tanya's car parked down the street. They thought they were so clever. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Claudia welcomed me with open arms, and that night, Victoria sent me the draft petition. It was time. Filing for divorce was surreal. I sat in Victoria's office as she submitted the paperwork electronically, each click of her mouse feeling like a door closing on my old life. But we weren't just filing for divorce. We were filing emergency motions to freeze all marital assets, prevent Marcus from accessing accounts, and expose his financial misconduct. Victoria had also compiled every piece of evidence into a comprehensive brief, the bank statements, the screenshots of his conversations, the receipts, the recorded confession. "This is what we call building an airtight case," she said with a slight smile. "When the judge sees this, there won't be any question about who's at fault." I imagined Marcus receiving the papers, his smug expression crumbling as he read through the accusations backed by undeniable proof. Part of me wanted to see his face at that moment. Victoria scheduled the initial court hearing for 2 weeks out. "He'll try to fight this," she warned. "Be prepared for him to get nasty." I nodded. I was ready for whatever came next. The time for silence was over. Marcus showed up at Claudia's apartment 3 days after being served. I watched from the window as he pounded on the door, shouting my name. Claudia stepped outside, blocking his path. "She doesn't want to talk to you." His voice turned soft, pleading. "I just want to apologize. I messed up." "I know I did. But we can fix this." I'd heard this script before, the false apology designed to buy time, to manipulate emotions, to regain control. Claudia glanced back at me through the window. I shook my head. She turned back to Marcus. "Leave, or I'm calling the police." He tried several more times over the next week, texts, emails, even a flower delivery with a card that read, "I'm sorry. Let's talk. I love you." Each message followed the same pattern: minimize, deflect, promise change. But Victoria had warned me this would happen. "Abusers don't apologize sincerely," she'd said. "They apologize strategically." I saved every message, every attempt at contact. They would all go into evidence. Marcus didn't realize he was still digging his own grave. Then I found something that changed everything. While reviewing old bank statements with Victoria, we discovered Marcus had been forging my signature on loan applications. He'd taken out $30,000 in personal loans using my name and social security number without my knowledge. My hands went numb as Victoria explained the implications. "This isn't just marital misconduct anymore. This is identity theft. Fraud. We need to report this to the authorities." I felt sick. How could someone I'd trusted, someone I'd built a life with, do something so calculating and cruel? But the evidence was clear: loan documents with signatures that looked like mine but weren't, applications I'd never seen, money I'd never received. Victoria contacted a detective who specialized in financial crimes. Within days, they opened an investigation. Marcus had no idea that his actions had crossed from civil into criminal territory. When Victoria filed an amended complaint including the fraud charges, I saw her eyes gleam with professional satisfaction. "This just became a prosecutor's dream case," she said. Marcus was about to face consequences far beyond divorce court. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, wood-paneled and formal. I sat beside Victoria, hands folded in my lap, while Marcus sat across the aisle with his attorney looking confident and unbothered. He dressed in his best suit, probably thinking he could charm the judge like he'd charmed everyone else. Judge Helen Kowalski entered, and everyone stood. She was older, gray-haired, with the expression of someone who'd seen every trick in the book. As the hearing began, Marcus's attorney painted me as a vindictive wife trying to punish her husband for normal marital struggles. "Your Honor, this is simply a case of a bitter spouse exaggerating minor financial disagreements." I kept my face neutral, but inside, anger simmered. Then Victoria stood. "Your Honor, if I may present evidence to the contrary." She handed the judge our brief, thick with documentation. Marcus's confident expression faltered slightly. The judge began reading, her eyebrows rising incrementally with each page. After 10 minutes, she looked up, her gaze settling on Marcus with unmistakable disapproval. "Counsel, please approach." The whispered conversation at the bench lasted several minutes. Marcus's attorney returned looking pale. Victoria began presenting our case, piece by devastating piece. Bank statements showing the drained savings. Screenshots of Marcus's conversations with 3 different women. Receipts for designer gifts and hotel rooms. The hidden bank account with $67,000. The forged loan documents. Every revelation hit like a hammer blow. Marcus's face went from pink to red to pale white. His attorney kept objecting, but Judge Kowalski overruled each one. "I want to hear this," she said firmly. When Victoria played the audio recording of Marcus's confession, admitting to supporting other women because I didn't appreciate him enough, gasps rippled through the courtroom. Marcus slumped in his chair, realizing too late that he'd been caught completely. The judge's expression hardened with each piece of evidence. Finally, she held up the forged loan documents. "Mr. Caldwell, are you aware that forging your spouse's signature on financial documents constitutes fraud?" Marcus stammered something incoherent. His attorney tried to intervene, but the damage was done. The judge set down the papers and looked directly at him. "I've seen many cases of marital financial disputes. This is not one of them. This is systematic financial abuse and criminal fraud." Judge Kowalski's ruling was swift and decisive. She granted my petition immediately, awarding me full control of all marital assets pending the final divorce settlement. The hidden $67,000 account was frozen and allocated entirely to me as compensation for the stolen savings. Marcus was ordered to repay the $43,000 he drained, plus the $30,000 in fraudulent loans. She also granted me exclusive possession of our house and ordered Marcus to pay my legal fees. Furthermore, the judge continued, her voice cutting through the stunned silence, "I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Mr. Caldwell, you may face charges for identity theft and fraud." Marcus's face crumbled. His attorney whispered urgently to him, but he seemed unable to process what was happening. Outside the courtroom, Victoria squeezed my shoulder. "That was one of the most satisfying rulings I've witnessed in 15 years. News spread quickly. Marcus's family called, some angry, some apologetic. His mother left a voicemail saying she'd never truly known him. His girlfriends, realizing they'd been part of a criminal scheme, disappeared from his life overnight. 3 weeks later, Marcus was formally charged with identity theft and fraud. He faced potential jail time and permanent damage to his career. 6 months later, I stood in my newly redecorated living room, sunlight streaming through windows I'd uncovered after removing Marcus's heavy curtains. The house felt lighter, brighter, like it could finally breathe. I'd returned to school, enrolling in a business program I'd always wanted to pursue but Marcus had discouraged. With the settlement money, I had financial security for the first time in years. Claudia visited often, and we laughed about things that once seemed impossible to laugh about. My therapist said I was showing remarkable resilience, but I didn't feel remarkable. I just felt free. The criminal case against Marcus was ongoing. His attorney had negotiated a plea deal, restitution, probation, community service, and a permanent record. His accounting license was suspended. I didn't attend those hearings. I'd already moved on. One evening, I received a friend request on social media from someone named Vanessa Coleman. Her message was brief: I was one of Marcus's girlfriends. I had no idea he was married. "I'm so sorry for what you went through. You're incredibly strong." I stared at the message for a long time before responding simply, "Thank you." Then I closed the app and went back to my homework. A year after the court ruling, I ran into Marcus at a grocery store. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. His eyes met mine across the produce section, and for a moment, neither of us moved. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then thought better of it and turned away. I watched him shuffle toward the exit, shoulders hunched, and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just a distant curiosity about who that person had been and why I'd stayed so long. My life had transformed completely. I graduated top of my class, landed a position at a firm that valued my skills, and started dating again, cautiously but optimistically. Friends commented on how different I seemed, more confident, more present. I'd learned something valuable through the pain: trust your instincts, document everything, and never let someone else control your financial future. Sometimes people asked if I regretted how things ended, if I wished I'd tried harder to save the marriage. I always answered the same way: He underestimated me at every turn. That was his biggest mistake. The truth was, Marcus didn't destroy me. He revealed himself, and I had the strength to do what needed to be done. That courtroom victory wasn't just about money or justice. It was about reclaiming my power, my voice, my future. And I did.